Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into a special edition of the Sunday Sideline Report here on the SIN YouTube channel. Mike Rifkin, Danny Boy Reginald, Mark the old ops guy, Halpern. Gentlemen, we've made it. We're to the playoffs. How we all doing?
No, the ones of us who have teams in the playoffs are at least happy.
Oh my god.
I said I'd be the one to make me laugh.
You what? You did. I mean, I didn't expect that fire to come right away. All right. Dan, how we doing?
All good, man. Excited for some football, man. This is great.
Yeah, we're at the playoffs. Regular season flew by. Wild card weekend starts tomorrow. So here's the deal for tonight's show. We are going to talk about the two games that'll be played on Saturday, and then we will talk about three head coaches, where two of them we could say it's an end of an era, and for one, it's he just couldn't tighten things up. But I gotta smile. I gotta smile. But
You got to smirk.
give me something. God, gee, Liz.
The,
All right.
the Cowboys are in a massive hole here. They cannot lose to the Packers.
Well, we'll talk about that
He's
one.
worried about that.
We'll talk about that on Sunday. But before we get started, a couple of quick shout outs, Top Notch Sports and Sweep the Leg. Mark, if you want to go into more details on
Sweep
those.
the league, not sweep the leg.
I said sweep the league.
No, you said sweep the leg.
I
You
thought
and
Karate
Ralph
Kid.
Macchio phase over the last 3 weeks with you would sweep the leg, sweep the leg. No, Rudy, he did that on purpose to try to make me laugh.
I did. I tried to get him angry. All right. So we dive in. The two games that'll be played Saturday are both in the AFC, which I kind of thought they usually went 1-1. But we got two AFC games tomorrow. Ironically enough, both are rematches from games in the regular season. And first up, we've got the Fighting Joe Flacco's in the Cleveland Browns taking on the upstart Houston Texans. Again, these two teams played earlier in the season, which had the Browns winning by a score of 36-22. The aforementioned Joe Flacco threw for 368 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. Mark's boy, Amari Cooper, 11 catches, 265 yards, which is a Cleveland Browns record. I'm going to follow that up with a trivia question in a second. And 2 touchdowns. David Njoku had the other touchdowns. Darius Smith, 2 sacks. For Houston, CJ Stroud did not play in this game. This was one of the games he missed due to a concussion.
That my New York Jets cause. I just want to make a point out there that we kicked their asses.
That's their impact on the playoffs. So I'll start with this. I said before I had a trivia question. Amari Cooper, for the third time in his career, had 200 yards receiving with a different organization. There's your little stat fact.
Yeah, and he's only been with 3 organizations, so it's pretty easy to see who he had him with.
No, who are the other ones? Who are the other receivers with 200 yards? Give me one receiver who had 200 yards with 3 different teams.
I know Jerry Rice did it with, I think he did with the Raiders and with the Niners, but I can't name a person who did it 3 times.
One of them played for your Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, Terrell Owens. Fucking pussy.
Sorry, Tia. All right. So let's just dive into the game as a whole. Mark, what adjustments do the Texans have to make in order to get the win on home field against the Cleveland Browns?
I think you made it with the right sayings that CJ Stroud missed this first meeting with the concussion caused by the gangrene Jets, and CJ Stroud is what gets this team moving. He is the force behind it. I'll be the first one to say it is I did not have a lot of faith with him in the Texans in the beginning of the year. I even wrote about it. I thought, to be all honest, Bryce Young was going to have the surprising year. Boy, was I fooled. what I watched this young man do. Here's a guy, who comes into the league, and he has all the promises of a number one quarterback, but we've seen it only happen so many times. And I was glad to be wrong about this kid. I enjoyed watching him play throughout the few games that I did see. Mind you, they didn't show that much Houston Texans games up here. But
True.
the few games I did watch him play, there's a lot of talent in this young man. And this organization made it back to the playoffs, not because of a whole team effort. He was the big source behind it. He won games when games couldn't be won. So when you're showing why the Houston Texans are in the playoffs, you got to thank the draft pick of CJ Stroud.
Just to follow up before I go to Dan, they've also built up that defense through the draft too.
The defense, not to take away from the Cowboys, the Jets, it's two of the big dominating defenses in the league. The Cleveland Browns are no slouch either. They are probably behind the Bears, one of the best run defenses in football.
And we'll talk about how to stop a certain guy who can run for miles and miles. Dan, how does Houston really kind of surprise people and win this game at home?
I mean, it's easy. They win playing their brand of football, playing with a strong defense. They have a great system with DeMeco Ryans, who has done a tremendous job. Coordinator's done a tremendous job with that too. System defense, and then you have a real stud of a quarterback, like a true, quarterback in CJ Stroud. You just gotta let him cook. And I know he's banged up. Everyone's banged up at this point in the season. But you let him go and you let him make the big plays and you let your defense get the big stops. Like this is a good opportunity for Houston to, really surprise people. I know they've been shocking people all year. Let's see though. It's a really, really tough matchup though that they have right now. They're facing the Browns. The Browns are red hot. Joe Flacco is having a resurgence after he finally got out of that abysmal system with the Jets. And let's be real, the Jets with Joe Flacco was terrible, not because of Joe Flacco, but because the Jets are just an awful team. So the Browns have something. They have a good receiving core. They have a good defense. They have a good offense. Great coach, Kevin Stefanski. Banged up. So take advantage, Houston. Take advantage. But don't sleep on the Browns because they're a stud team. If they turn it up even more like they've had over the last 6 weeks, man, it's gonna be trouble for every team. So Houston's got to take advantage, and they need to take advantage early. You're at home. Take advantage early.
Oh, you're right. They're at home. You got to use the crowd to your advantage. I think the other thing is they got to get other guys outside of Nico Collins involved early because Denzel Ward, I know he's been listed as questionable, but if you read his Twitter, he looks like he's going to play. So Denzel Ward's probably going to line up on Nico Collins, reverting back to Ohio State versus Michigan. But this might be a game where they have to get your guy Dalton Schultz involved. He had a good game the first time the two teams played. Devin Singletary's going to have to play a factor. He was really good for them down the stretch. I just wonder, this is going to be too much because other side of the ball, Joe Flacco's been balling. I think Joe Flacco's played well enough to the point where he's probably got himself a job next year somewhere.
Flacco saved himself. There is no two questions about that. What he's done in Cleveland is pretty much given me the respect to say he deserves comeback player of the year just for his play in the last month. But I mean, you have to consider it a whole season. What can Flacco do to this Houston team? It's going to take patience. It's going to take time. But Mike, I think you missed out on a name, and that's Tank Dell. I
Oh, yeah.
think he's the name that has to get in the slot and start causing the
He-
linebackers to go
He's
to
not
him.
playing.
Is it still
Yeah,
GTD or is it official?
No, he broke his leg.
No, hell, they have been talking about him possibly. So if he's out, he's
I'd
out.
be
But I'm just
stunned
saying,
if Tank Dell played.
I mean,
Let me-
broken leg, it's a tough one.
look, you mentioned a guy who got 200 yards with three different teams. This is the guy who broke his ankle 4 weeks before the Super Bowl and played in it. So I don't put injuries these days at a high. If he says he's going to try to play, it's at least worth taking notice.
Oh, it's worth taking notice. I just haven't heard. I hadn't heard anything.
I've heard very sparse, which means nothing. We've seen teams show up and all of a sudden their first round draft pick from 3 years ago was out from the first week of the season is starting on the opposite side. So, until the official outs or inactives are mentioned, like for the Bills, I mean, we'll deal with that when it happens. But
Deal with that Sunday.
yeah, but
If you can even see what's going on during that game.
we'll deal with that soon enough. But you know, whether Tank Dell plays or doesn't, this Houston Texans team, and if I screwed up and it's already been listed, he's out, and I screwed up. Hey, look, I'm old. I'm allowed to make mistakes. If Tank Dell is out, Nico Collins is not. He's your number one in your system, but you have the experience of Dalton Schultz, and you gotta use it.
And we flip side this to Cleveland. I mean, we talked about it. Amari Cooper who had the 200-yard receiving first time they played, and Joku's been on a tear since Joe Flacco turned up. So, but I'm looking at the other side too. Like Zadarius Smith had 2 sacks the last time these two teams played. We all know how good Myles Garrett is.
Money's not swinging to something.
Hey. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is going to play in a playoff game on Sunday. Show him respect.
Man, I would have paid for him to be sacking him in that game. Man, I would. I definitely put some money on Myles Garrett.
Put him on a Jake Paul boxing card. Is that what you're saying?
You kidding me? I could probably put him on a standardized card that I created myself with a piece of jersey saying game used and sell it for $1 million. No, I don't do that.
Yeah. The question is, would he use his helmet too?
Well, that too. I mean, look, a piece of his helmet would be nice, especially if it's used against Mason Rudolph.
That's probably the best thing he can do to
You
win a
wanted to
fight.
laugh, Mike. You got it. Happy?
We want to show off. We got into Myles Garrett swinging his helmet. I don't know. I don't know what to do now. For you guys, this is before we maybe make an official prediction. But either order, Ryan Stefanski, Ryans, would these be your top 2 guys for coach of the year?
You have to consider it.
Yeah. It's almost, I mean, if I'm being real with you, I would almost go more in the Dan Campbell route again.
Ooh.
Just because of the big time transformation that he brought with the Lions. I mean, look, the Lions were barely a winning team last year, and they turned themselves around to a 3 seed and a division champion. So that's not an easy thing to do.
No.
The year after a year where you're basically, in a rebuild, retool, whatever the hell you want to call it and stuff. But out of those 2, I would lean more towards DeMeco.
Well, we get it. He's a long lost cousin of yours.
Oh, yeah, part of that. But no, like he, for whatever reason, this is a really spunky Houston team that I think deserves a lot more credit than they've gotten. I feel like they're not necessarily disrespected, but sort of brushed aside a little bit. They're good, but how good are they really? They're flawed, but how are they really flawed? Maybe they're just a young team that makes a lot of mistakes.
And it's a very solid point. The biggest problem I have with Houston is not their passing game. It's their running backs.
Yeah. No,
Devin
that's
Singletary
fair.
and Damian Pierce are
They
not.
are pass. They are a pass heavy team.
Look, I thought Damian
Yeah.
Pierce would have a great year, and he really didn't. He wound up really playing second fiddle to Singletary.
And
Damian
Singletary's
Pierce,
not a number one anywhere.
no, I agree with you. And Damian Pierce got lombarded back to kickoff return duty, but I kind of wonder if this goes to the San Francisco mindset, the Kyle Shanahan, where you could have like 4 or 5 decent running backs, but I don't think that really it translates to a certain degree, but you need that bell cow. That's why if Houston loses this game, and I'll say this here, they'll have the cap space. So I wouldn't be shocked if they're the team that says, you know what? We've got Josh Jacobs as a free agent. We got Saquon Barkley as a free agent. We got Austin Eckler as a free agent. Let's try to make it work with one of them.
And don't forget Derrick Henry.
Well, the only difference is, oh yeah. Well, I'm
Yeah.
just using the 3 others because they're younger.
Fair enough.
That was what I mean. No disrespect, Derrick Henry. I know you could still ball and you wear a crown because you're King Henry. But
Look, if you really want to put it all into the hat, I mean, I know we're talking AFC right now, but let's just flip it over quickly and we're going to go right back.
sure,
That there are teams in the NFC or that are noticing what the running back situation is, and there are a few of them that have 1-year running backs who could make a huge splash with this running back free agency.
your guy Tony Pollard's a free agent too.
Yes, he is. He's on the tag. I mean, look, Tony Pollard, I love him. He was a good backup to Zeke. He was a good complement. I think he's a good complement with somebody else. I don't think he's a solid number one. I think he's a great talent, but he needs help.
And I don't think the draft is running back heavy this year. Like
No.
most years, you're going to see more receivers, but we'll see. And by the way, Cleveland, flip side, just really quick, they've done this most of the year without Nick Chubb, which is
I kind of forgot about that.
yeah, like don't rewatch the injury; it's nasty.
No.
I mean, the other part about this, and this is just me being nonsensical for a second. Deshaun Watson signed a fully guaranteed contract, and he was not playing great. Joe Flacco's lighting it up right now. I'm not saying Cleveland's got a quarterback controversy, but damn it, Drew Carey, if you won't say it, I will.
But you're right. You're 100% right. Deshaun Watson's getting paid $50 million to watch the games from the stands. And we've seen pictures of him sitting in the stadium while not even being on the sidelines with his team. That has to say not only A, it's a lot about his character, or B, it's a lot that the organization doesn't want him near the team.
Or C, he's trying to get massages.
That too.
Oh, but by the way, we were robbed. This could have been Deshaun Watson against the Texans.
Something tells me we were not that lucky.
Yeah. All right.
If Deshaun was good, keep in mind.
Deshaun was good.
I don't know if he has the games that Joe Flacco has.
All
But
right.
let me tell you, Flacco has looked like a second-year rookie, a second-year sophomore.
This is like early, like late 2000s.
This
early
is Super
2010s.
Bowl champion winning Joe Flacco.
Yes.
Like,
By the way, remember when he won with Baltimore? How
Yeah.
did Baltimore get to the Super Bowl? They won 3 games on the road.
Mm.
What's
Yeah,
Cleveland's
that's a good point.
pathway? They got to win 3 road games.
That's a good point.
Oh boy.
That is 100% true.
This territory, man.
You look at teams that are on the road in these playoffs, and Mike, one of them being your Miami Dolphins.
Yep, we'll get there in a second.
We'll get there. I'm just saying, if you picture it in your mind right now, even in your own head, you have to say, how is this fair? Yet Mozart's going to be there with his shirt off in Buffalo, but that's okay.
Listen, things happen, and you have that us against the world mentality. Do we all like Cleveland over Houston, or do we like Houston?
I like Cleveland.
Cleveland.
I'm in Cleveland. It's nothing against the Texans. I think they've had a tremendous season, and they could prove me wrong by winning. I just don't see it. I think the Browns, despite the injuries, I think the Browns have the better team. They have the better quarterback. the more experienced coach to get the job done on wild card week.
Agreed.
I like Cleveland
Look,
too.
you got to give a heart emoji if you have one to CJ Stroud and what this
Oh,
Houston team
yeah.
has done.
They've got a great future.
Exactly. This is not the last we're going to hear of him. Next year's a new year.
Yeah, and you think year one was good. Wait till he takes the leap in year two. And now you know Houston's going to be a big destination at some point.
And that's a key right there because of his play. Players are going to want to play with him.
They want to play with a
key.
baller.
And
Yes.
players are not going to have to pay the state income tax.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. I wasn't thinking that. I thought you were going somewhere else.
So they keep their money.
Yeah.
No, you keep the money. My
Keep
boy
the money,
Laramie.
get a good quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
What would okay? Argument's sake, just before we go to the other game, what would be an X factor for Houston to pull off the win?
Be able to have 275-yard rushers in the game. You
Balanced
get
rushers.
150 yards on the ground, and you get it from not all one running back. You get a good breakup between two
Balance.
running backs going at you, and you don't know how to defend against it. That can throw a wrench into any plan.
I think for Houston, if they could put Joe Flacco in disarray, make him scared a little bit, have him swarmed and have that doubt creep in a little bit, play mind games, that might be the trick. But you have to do it all 60 minutes. And I don't know if Joe Flacco is going to be that vulnerable for 60 minutes.
I think there's a couple. I think you got to win the turnover battle. I think that's a huge one. And you said getting Flacco's head. I think you got to pressure him. Cleveland's offensive line's been banged up most of the year. If Will Anderson and company could get home, they got a shot. The other thing is discipline.
Wow.
These two teams in their first meeting combined for 19 penalties.
Yeah, that's brutal, dude.
That's hopefully Brad Allen's not the
How many yards? If I'm putting you to the test here, how many yards on the 19 penalties? I mean, you have to think it was at least over 150 yards combined. So I'm giving you time and I'm putting in a little
Hold on,
fodder.
I'm going to
Move
double
along.
check.
I know. You're looking it up. It's okay. I'm putting you on the hot spot here. So I'm giving you some time.
Really are. Like I'm some sort of math major or smart guy. Like
You put up more articles than ESPN. Yes, you're a very smart guy.
Take that, Greg Wyshynski.
Let's put it this way. Anything over 150 yards, you have to take that. Anything over 100 yards, you're giving up a touchdown on penalties. Let's just put it at that. Anything over 120 yards, you might as well just.
It's 131 combined penalty yards.
That's and on 19. That's just too many flags to throw in one game anyway.
Oh, dude, at some point we're talking about the officiating during these playoffs.
We'll get to it, but I don't even have that many handkerchiefs in all my suits.
I don't have that many pocket squares.
So, I mean, 19 in one game, you're not going to see 19 penalties. I'm hoping the refs let them play a little bit. I mean, this isn't the ref crew that they have the Dallas Green Bay game on that is the weakest. And we'll talk about that tomorrow morning. The weakest on penalties. I mean, on Sunday morning, the weakest on penalties. But this is the playoffs now. There should be no questionable reffing team out there to coach again.
No Seahawk Cowboy refs.
No Seahawk Cowboy refs. No Tom Brady. Hey, look, did you bring the dollar? Stuff like that. Stuff like that. No getting autographs in the tunnels of your favorite player. Call a game.
All right. So that's the first game. I think that's the NBC game. Texans, bro.
The other game you won't see because it's on Peacock.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is out. Everyone is out.
I haven't figured this out. My mother, mind you, yes, I'm giving a shout out to the old ops woman, not my wife. If I called her old, I get shot. My mother calls me up and says, how the hell do I watch Peacock tomorrow on this weekend? I can't watch the goddamn KC game. Like, this is my biggest concern. But honestly, it has to be my biggest concern because she's going to be calling me every 3 minutes. What the hell's the damn score? Because I'm going to be watching.
Listen, I think the NFL makes enough money where this game shouldn't have to be on Peacock.
Agreed.
That's the point of this. Like, listen, if you want to give ESPN the second game, if you want to give CBS a second game, couldn't care less. But Peacock, really?
They know exactly what they're doing.
By the way, you're putting Mahomes on Peacock.
Yeah,
It's
know.
not like you're putting the game nobody gives a crap about on Peacock. It's Mahomes. Taylor Swift is going to be freezing her ass off out there.
What are you talking about? That room's going to be 80 degrees.
Someone's going to throw her out to be with the real fans. Come on.
Yeah. So
she'll just have to shake it off.
Look, let's look at it this way. The best meme I saw of the day is if the KC Chiefs lose and Taylor dumps Travis, her new album's going to be So I Used to Know a Good Tight End.
Oh my God. All right. I'm stopping it there. All right. We got Chiefs, we got Dolphins.
Yeah.
The first meeting was played in Germany. It was a 20.
Wasn't even played on American soil. No wonder.
First time they were playing on American soil. Chiefs won 21-14. Mahomes 185 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tua 193 yards and a touchdown. Raheem Mostert 85 yards rushing, a touchdown, and a fumble that cost the Dolphins the game. But some of us have short-term memory and don't want to acknowledge that one. Tyreek Hill against his former team, 8 receptions, 62 yards. Travis Kelce, 3 catches, 14 yards. Isaiah Pacheco, 66 rushing yards on 16 carries. The Dolphins running the football had 117 yards, but they averaged over 5 yards a carry in the first meeting. So
I'm gonna try to be nice, and I know because we have the Dolphins head organizer right here. The Dolphins OnlyFans is right here. No, taking this seriously, you're looking at a game that is being played with wind chills that are going to be colder than what the Ice Bowl were in the 1960s. You're looking at minus 18 to minus 20 degree wind chills. I understand fan loyalty. You want to go out there and be with your shirt off, fine. Don't let me see you with your 4-year-old or baby out there with you. Get grandma, get grandpa to watch the kid, get mom and dad, get your local fire department to come check out your kids. If you're planning on going to this game, keep the kids at home. I've been out there in this type of cold. It's not worth it. You don't enjoy it.
Yeah, no, things freeze in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, and that makes your butt to that seat.
Like a millisecond. Me and Rifkin know all too well about negative temperatures.
Oh yeah, we do.
It's brutal. For Tua Tagovailoa to be like, I'm not gonna have gloves on, and I'm going to play in this weather the way I've been doing it, I think it's a manly move for him. Because I, for one, would not be being gloveless outdoors.
I think it's a mindset too.
Yeah.
A mindset.
No,
you just said you have been in freezing cold, severe temperatures. There is no mindset to know how your hands are going to feel.
But here's what I'm saying. Mike McDaniel last year, the Dolphins were playing the Bills in the playoffs. Tua didn't play. He was out with the concussion.
Yeah.
They were talking about them wanting it to be colder. So it kind of is like, okay, now you're going to get the wish because it's going to be colder. You're going to probably freeze, but it kind of reminds me of that Giants-Packers 07 NFC title game. Corey Webster intercepted Brett Favre.
Yeah, I remember that.
Or the rosy cheeks.
Tom Coughlin.
Oh, look, I don't wish anything bad on this game. This weather alone is going to be brutal enough. You're going to see the Miami Dolphins use Mostert and Don Amici very well. I've called them that all season. I'm not breaking my stride with it.
He has, that is
Yeah,
true. For
I'm
everyone
gonna keep my
listening.
stride with it. I'm gonna use it until the end of the season, and then Devon A. Chain will
Don
get
Amici.
yes, we'll get his due rights. But if you really want to, look at this, Miami has to do something here because their number one most used weapon is from here. They know how to play him. They know how to mind you. And mind you, when the cold is that cold, doesn't matter what type of talent you have. It's gonna come down to a handful of plays that'll make the decision. And I'm sad to say it might be just a simple turnover to win it and a field goal to win it. It could be a 3-0 ball game.
Well, I think that's why a big player in this game is Jalen Ramsey, who didn't play the first time. Now, the Chiefs receivers, let's be real blunt here. They haven't been good all year, with the exception of Rashee
They're
Rice.
not a
But
good team.
Well-
I'm gonna say it. They're not good.
if I'm Vic Fangio, who by the way would know Patrick Mahomes pretty well from his days coaching the Denver Broncos, maybe you put Jalen Ramsey on Travis Kelce and you try to see if that matchup can work out in your favor a little bit and try to have someone else beat you. The other thing is, how many times, and Mark, we talk about this all the time, how many times does Mahomes beat you with his legs?
And that's gonna be your difference maker. It's going to be, we're gonna see the same thing with the Bills game. I mean, it's not going to be Bills Pittsburgh. It's going to be the same type of weather condition. Just one's going to have more snow than the other.
Mm-hmm.
You can't play a game cohesively when there's bad weather. There is no player who can play perfectly in bad weather and good weather. There is no player ever invented. Everybody's going to make mistakes. It's going to come down to not the level of talent. It's going to come down to the durability of your players to play in these treacherous conditions and what they can actually tolerate. Because a simple collision in this cold is going to feel bone shattering.
Oh, Dan, you want to add anything into this one?
I think the Dolphins. First of all, I have a lot of respect for the Dolphins for obviously taking their division loss like true manly men and meeting this KC game head on and stuff. I will give them that. I think it's a very humbling experience for the Dolphins after they talked a lot of crap this season about how tough they are, how they're one of the best teams in the NFL, and everything. So give them a lot of that. I think this one might be it might be a bit too much for them. But Casey's not a good team. Like they're really not that good. Mahomes is the best player on that. I'm just gonna be real.
Yeah.
Mahomes is the best player on that team. Travis Kelce is not a close second. He's not.
No, unfortunately, no.
So on paper, this should be an easy game, but it's the cold conditions that might burn them big time.
And one thing that Dan made very clear and Mike made very clear, when you look at these Chiefs teams of the past, mind you, Tyreek Hill's on the other side now. Travis Kelce, Mike said, putting Jalen Ramsey on him, even though, yes, you can mentally picture it, the mismatch on sides, because Kelce has it all over him. But when you're looking at receivers, there is no clear, real number one. Yes, Kelce's the safety and all of it all, but there's no clear mindset. Marquez Valdez-Scantling should be this number one target on this team, and he hasn't really been heard from all season.
Except for the Philly game.
Yeah.
And listen, Rashee Rice has had a good rookie year. Sky Moore, listen, he's got a long way to go before he hits the sky, man, because we need more out of him if you're the Chiefs. But
right.
Yeah.
I think if the Dolphins are going to win this game, they need to win up front. both offensive line and defensive line. Christian Wilkins was amazing last week against the Bills. If he could play with that kind of performance again with Zach Sealer, they signed a bunch of different edge rushers this week because Bradley Chubb is out and Jalen Phillips is out. If Justin Houston and Bruce Irvin can prove to be somewhat difference makers, they've got a shot.
You don't just go out and replace a Bradley Chubb.
Nope.
It's no offense. I know this is going to be a hard comparison. It's like Dallas going out and trying to replace Micah Parsons.
Oh, yeah.
You can't just replace the most dominating, fear-mongering person on your defense.
Yeah. So,
Question:
Go
Yo.
ahead.
How much of a running game does Miami have in this game? Because
I think they can run the ball effectively.
because the thing is that I have a really hard time thinking that Mike McDaniel, and this could just be my speculation, and maybe I'm just a dumbass that doesn't really know anything about Dolphins football, but I have a strange feeling that McDaniel's gonna use the ground and pound method.
I think that's what they're going to have to do because you want to keep. Excuse me. How do you beat Kansas City? Well, you don't let Mahomes onto the field.
Yeah.
So if Raheem Mostert is 100%, to use Mark's line, if Don Amici wants a slice of pizza, he can walk in anytime he wants. Hey, I expect them to use Tyreek Hill on some end arounds. I expect some Jeff Wilson. I don't think you're going to see any deep shots from Tua. I think everything's going to be short and intermediate where he's really good. But I think you're going to see a lot of running. I think you're going to see the run game. The offensive line has been banged up, but listen, if they can run the ball effectively, keep Mahomes off the field, they've got a legitimate shot.
And defense got to talk it up a little bit. You really want to play well?
And listen,
Make
defense
the big
played
stops.
really well last week against the Bills. They gave 14 points. Lose on a punt return, for Pete's sake.
Yeah. As I look at it right now, it's supposed to be officially at game time, partly cloudy, -11 on the field. That's without wind chills.
That's
So add at least 15 degrees more to that on the field. So you're looking at -20 plus on the field, just being on the field.
your spit's going to become flakes.
Pretty much. I think back to the one sport that Dan and I don't cover right now on this network, and that's hockey. And I think of Mystery Alaska right now, and I think about the New York Rangers coming in and out of the warming rooms during the break. And it's like, oh, you hear Hank Azaria say, oh, you can't do that. They can. There is nothing to protect these players. You could put thermal, whatever, electric heat sensors in these uniforms. It's not gonna make a difference.
Yeah.
There is no real way to keep you hydrated in the cold because your body reacts differently. As your body gets colder, it pumps more blood. It creates you to sweat more, you lose more fluids. And in this game, that's going to be your difference. It's going to be your durability of your players to withstand hit after hit after hit to get up and do it all over again.
Yeah. So I'm presuming you guys both like the Chiefs.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, look, it can go either way. Maybe Mahomes has a bad game in the cold. I don't know. I don't expect it, but maybe. I kind of want to see Mahomes go to Buffalo in this scenario. So, no.
I'm sorry. I don't really feel like lowering Nate lower any more than he can be.
Yeah.
Why did you have to say that?
Give me the Chiefs. But the Chiefs are not good. They're not a good team. They'll escape because the Dolphins, one, are in disarray, and two, because they're in conditions that are, you can't even live outside if you're homeless.
So this actually will make the guy above me smile. I actually have taken the Dolphins in this to win.
Oh, okay.
Only, and it's not via Tua Hill or anything. I said this is going to be a 3-0 ball game. He's going to hit a field goal with 3 seconds to go because they're going to recover the ball on their own 30 and they're going to move the ball 3 yards, and that's how they're going to win. Miami's going to win. It's Saunders is the kicker, correct?
Sanders, yeah.
Sanders, sorry. Sanders is going to hit a 20-yard field goal that Harrison Butker's going to miss, and there's your game.
Now on
Oh.
paper, I still think the Dolphins are better. I want to make it very clear.
Yeah.
I think the
Yeah.
Dolphins are better. I just don't know if they're going to how prepared they are really going to be
The weather, again,
for
is
this matchup.
impossible to call this game.
Yeah, I like the Chiefs too. I just think they'll make one more play, but I hope Mark's right. Personally,
You know, it would be nice to hear that in my lifetime, other than my kids say, Dad's right. Mark's right. Mark's always right. I'm never wrong.
Dead clock is right twice a day.
I was about to say, my watch is right twice a day. That's all that matters. If I look at my watch and say, oh shit, I'm supposed to be there in 5 minutes and I have 5 minutes to get there, then I've done everything right.
All right, now we'll dive into the coaches. We had, I don't want to call them surprises. Two of them at least are surprises. The last one we will table for the end because he deserves his own segment in the show because of the legend he is. But Pete Carroll and the Seahawks haven't agreed to part ways, but Pete Carroll will not be the coach. He'll work as like an advisor or something within the organization until he finds another job. But Pete Carroll was 137, 89, and 1 as the Seahawks coach. 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 win. And if he handed it to Marshawn at the 1-yard line,
Would have been 2.
he would have 2 Super Bowl rings, an 11-11 postseason record. Mark, we texted about this the other day, and I go, I still don't get it.
You look at this year's firings across the board. Pete Carroll was the name I didn't have on any list. I didn't see the Seahawks parting with him. I saw a lot of teams giving up on some big names, as you said. We'll save one for last. I did not have Pete Carroll being dismissed. Let's put it that way. He's being given the right due by being allowed to stay within the Seahawks until he finds a position for himself. That might be harder to do than it's actually seen because teams are rebuilding and a lot of owners now do not want to give up that control that is going to be needed, a la Jerry Jones, why we still have Mike McCarthy. So you have to take these firings as also as the coaches, like Mike said, was a mutual agreed upon. This isn't, oh, screw them, they didn't believe in me. This is, we've had a good run. It's time to move on, but we're not going to shoo you out the door. We're going to let you stay on until you find your own way.
Dan?
This is essentially a firing. I think the Seahawks are out of their minds. I really do. But I understand it. Obviously, Pete Carroll had a lot of power within the Seahawks organization, not only as the head coach but as the president of football. And look, the Jody Allen wanted to make that change.
That's a great point because Pete Carroll said it was non-football people who really made that decision.
To have I forget the GM's name, but to have
John Schneider.
To have him assume the official role as the head football guy, and he'll get his own coach, and that's where it goes. Pete Carroll's not going to stay on as an advisor very long. This guy, I get it, he's in the 70s. This dude can still coach. He is a great coach. He'll land somewhere. And you know what? I'm kind of hoping, Robert Saleh has a dud of a season in 2024 so that the Jets can bring Pete Carroll and he can restructure, just like he did with the Seahawks, restructure the entire organization, because guess what? The Jets kind of need.
And that's the right word. It's restructure. And that's the perfect word to use for a Pete Carroll situation, is if you want to take a team and make them redefined, you got to do it with somebody who's football minded. Not to say there are people out there that are not, and they would go with somebody else. But you got Pete Carroll and all his experience.
Yeah.
don't deny the guy what he's rightfully earned.
And let's be real, Mark. Let's be real about this. He has done it in the college game, and he's done it in the
Yes, you're 100% right then.
He should have
And this
replaced
is
Nick
not just
Sirianni.
coaching. This is being the judge and the jury on the entire personnel staff. And there are some misses. He missed on Jamal Adams, and that's fine. You know, like he that trade blew up on his face, and he'll admit to that. But the Seahawks are always competitive. They're always at least in the running for the playoffs. And his record is through the roof. He has a lot of wins in his 14 seasons. He's incredible.
And this team this year had so many injuries. You know, Jamal Adams barely plays. Gino was banged up for a time where they had to rely on Drew Lock. You know, they have a great receiving trio with DK, Lockett, and Jackson Smith, and Jigba. The offensive line's been kind of a revolving door. I think the thing that bothers me the most, because if the Seahawks went 7-10 or 5-12, whatever it is, then I could say, okay, they had a losing record. You want to move on, you can move on. They were 9-8, and they were on the preface of the playoffs. To me, that's the frustrating part.
And you're not wrong.
Mhm.
It is a frustrating part. But one thing you have to look at is you just called out everything but the coach. And if you look at that centralized team, there's a great core there. Lockett's on the end of his time, though. And I'm gonna call that where it is. And I think eventually he's gonna be the one to leave first. Obviously, Metcalf is signed for the next few years. And you got this flash in the pan who's on his rookie deal. So you got 5 years of him. Gino, I have so much respect for after what he's been through and what he's pulled out in Seattle. He's got one, maybe 2 good years left in him. Give the guy a chance, get something in front of him. If you want Seattle to make a good run, he needs some help on that line to give Gino more time.
And the other thing they need is they need an elite pass rusher.
Yes.
Because when they
go
were
ahead.
in the Super Bowl, we talk a lot about the Legion of Boom with Earl Thomas, Browner, Sherman, those guys. They also had Cliff Averill and Michael Bennett, and they've never replaced those two guys. So
It's hard to replace the unreplaceable.
no, I get it.
Yeah.
But they're gonna have to try.
Mhm.
And we'll talk about coaching candidates on Sunday. We won't dive in waste time. The other shocker was Mike Vrabel getting fired from Tennessee.
That made no sense to me. I understand you have Derrick Henry on the way out. He's going to get a new deal somewhere, whether wherever he goes, it's going to be massive. Vrabel kept this team alive. I don't think he wanted to trade A.J. Brown. I think he had no choice but to go with it. I don't
Let's
think
not
he should have been
forget,
fired.
Week 18, they knocked the Jacksonville Jaguars out of the playoffs.
Right.
Hey, they gave Miami a bit of a scare too when they won.
Oh yeah, they beat the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Dolphins choked against them.
So yeah, look, the Titans were not a good team, but they really were a thorn. With
Absolutely.
a lot of these teams this year. So it's was it shocking? Kinda. I mean, part of it was I think Tennessee. I think the organization's just soft. I think they just couldn't they couldn't handle Vrabel's obviously there's like a lack of patience with him, and they just couldn't really handle it anymore with him. Also, I don't think it helped when he had his Ring of Honor ceremony in New England and talked up a lot about New England. But then, it's coming back.
Listen, we'll get there because he ain't there right now.
So it's like I don't think that went too well with the owners either. There's a lot of little things that got him fired. It wasn't because he's a bad coach. It's the little things. And that's what frustrates me about the Titans organization that, let's be real, a couple years ago, could have been in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Could have been.
they were in the AFC title game,
Yep.
and you know, but this is my other part, because if you knew you were going to fire Vrabel if you missed the playoffs, Derrick Henry's a free agent. One, why didn't you trade Derrick Henry at the trade deadline? But
Yeah.
two, let's just make this a two scoop Sunday for a second. Why on earth did they sign DeAndre Hopkins over the last offseason? You knew you were going to go in a totally different direction. It feels like a waste of money. Hopkins had a decent year. I don't know. To me, everything the Titans have done makes me want to just remember the Titans with Denzel Washington.
And long live Frank Wycheck. It's kind of hard to look at this Titans team and picture without Vrabel there. Gonna have to. Gotta move on. It's happened. Nothing we can do. We're very surprised by it. Here's how the Titans can answer. There's more than enough names out there to bring in to coach this team and try to restore its awesomeness. Let's put it that way. And surprisingness. You gotta have a mind like Vrabel, a defensive mind to play and win in Tennessee. So that's why I was shocked. You want to punish the guy, make him the defensive, downgrade him to the defensive coordinator.
And here's the other thing, and this is for all the candidates. Are you going to be tied to Will Levis's future?
Ooh,
that's the
a good
ultimate
point.
question I would have.
But you see, that's a problem.
That's a good point
Because
too.
Will Levis, and he was put into a really tough spot this season.
Oh, 100%. I'm not blaming Will Levis. I'm blaming the Titans.
But who's gonna want to inherit Will Levis? And
somebody who needs that job.
But you're talking. You need a massive offensive mind and
yeah.
quarterback guru, because and it's gonna have to be like a Brock Purdy situation where everything's a system.
Oh boy, I just thought of two names, and I'm not happy with myself with the two names I thought of.
Hopefully my symbolization is where it's headed.
I'm not going for the clap, no, but I'm going somewhere close to the clap.
Okay.
I'm thinking Kellen Moore.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, who was the offensive coordinator in Tennessee before he became the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons? I'm thinking Arthur Smith.
Arthur Smith and Kellen Moore.
Oh no, but I mean, wouldn't you rather Arthur Smith be a coordinator before?
Listen, I'm not disputing that. I'm just telling you where my mind went, because I don't think they're going to wind up with a guy like Ben Johnson, who the Commanders have a lot of interest in, and apparently the Carolina Panthers have a lot of interest in.
Mike, the situation that's going on in your mind it made me think of saying, well, I just paid $22 at Taco Bell for a Mexican meal, with that coaching combination right there. I'm sorry. You're not going to see it. You want to get me going, you got it right there. Arthur Smith,
I don't want Taco Bell now.
Yeah, no. Arthur Smith, nothing against the guy. He needs more time in the league.
I'm not arguing that.
Right.
A lot of coordinators.
That's like a bag full of cats that you really don't want to be messing around with.
Like that crazy cat lady from The Simpsons. That's
I'd rather watch a Peter Griffin chicken fight than watch those two coach for next year. And mind you, Kellen Moore was my OC. We got rid of him for a reason.
Because he had buck teeth.
No, the guy can't coach for shit. He couldn't throw the ball well either.
I know. Boise State legend.
I apologize.
All right. And then the third and final coach we will talk about is the GOAT, the hoodlum, the hoodie, Bill Belichick.
You say it, I'm going to kill you.
The legend.
No. You got a little leeway, but if you say what you're going to say, I'm going to kill you.
But Mark, I'll make you feel better. Rifkin, I'll make you feel better. It is the New York Jets that kicked his ass and
Oh,
sent
that does
him
make me feel a little
back.
better.
That really doesn't make me feel any better because I still
It-
think Robert Saleh should have been fired.
Oh no,
Um,
I think so too. But
I was about to say you're not gonna get Dan not to agree with you on that.
but he and specifically Brees Hall kicked their ass and
Well,
sent him packing.
all right, so
This
Bill,
is this was an outstanding career for Bill. Outstanding career, 24 seasons. That's a
it's a lifetime.
it's
Like,
it's not never gonna happen again in the NFL.
like
no.
argument's sake, like who's probably closest to that? Popovich in the NBA?
Yeah.
Oh, I was about to say,
Tomlin's
the
getting up
wrong
there.
sport, Mike.
Tomlin's going into his 18th season.
18th, yeah, next year.
So
All right, but,
yeah, Popovich.
like
He's
also,
up there.
if you're building like a Mount Rushmore of coaches from the 90s and 2000s, like it's Belichick, it's Phil Jackson, it's Greg Popovich, and whoever you want to throw on the last one.
Bobby Cox. I mean,
Bobby Cox.
I was about to say you got. I was gonna believe it or not. I can't believe Dan said it right before I did.
I mean,
Of all
Scotty
the people,
Bo-
I'm waiting for him to say Joe Torre, to be honest. But
Scotty Bowman could be
no, no,
thrown
Torrey
on there.
Torrey was good. Bobby Cox is the legend.
I was
Yes.
kind of surprised Dan said that. That's why I was so agreeable
Yeah.
on it because I couldn't agree more with him, even though diehard Mets fan.
And
But
look, I
Bobby
love
Cox.
you know I love Mr. T, man. Joe Torre is
Yes, no, I know. That's why I was surprised when I was like, really? I was gonna say that. Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
so Bill Belichick and the Patriots mutually agreed to part ways. Belichick 266 and 121 record, 30-12 in the playoffs, 6-3 in the Super Bowl, 3-time Coach of the Year. Here are the NFL records he holds. Most wins in a Super Bowl as a head coach. He's got 6. 12 Super Bowl appearances, 9 as a head coach, most
Jesus.
playoff wins, and 17 division titles.
Come on.
And arguably the most patriotic man who ever lived.
And it should be retired as before the wild card starts. No coach should be allowed to wear a hoodie ever again. The hoodie dies there. Because I swear to God, if I see one more picture of Bill Belichick in a hoodie, I'm gonna be sick.
By the way,
It's like last weekend I wore the Tom Landry, fedora, and I thought it was good. No, I didn't look good in it. But it's just was a statement piece. You don't replace an iconic image that's like, I hate to say it, Bill. I mean, Bill, you're here listening to me. I'm sure you are out there. You kind of look like the Unabomber going out, so there you go.
Here's the thing. First of all, he'll never be.
You wanted me to laugh, Mike? There you go.
He'll never be topped. He's gonna go elsewhere because he wants the all-time wins record.
Yeah, well, he's gonna be bored. That's what it is.
Well, that's true too. But here's where I have an issue with the New England Patriots organization. Mr. Kraft, I love your macaroni and cheese, but
I thought you were about to ask him, where does he get a hand job?
to not wait a day before you name Gerard Mayo the head coach.
Yeah, the come on.
That to me is so, to quote Mark's favorite TV personality, Stephen A. Smith, so disrespectful.
And that was putting it nicely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to keep it clean, but I don't like that. I think it's rude. It's obnoxious to everything Bill Belichick accomplished for the organization. He deserved better. Now, here's the thing, and I've had plenty of conversations over the last 24 hours. Bill Belichick could still coach football. He still knows what the hell he's doing.
Well, anyone that says he can is an idiot.
But
I
you could have
agree.
fired GM Bill and say, listen, we need to bring in someone to oversee the roster and the operation here because you haven't drafted well. Free agents don't come here. Our receiving core
It's gone.
is awful. Your number one wide receiver is Juju Smith-Schuster, and he hasn't been relevant since his last TikTok video.
I was about to say, did he have a catch after anything?
He had one a couple of weeks ago, unless he was
Right.
hurt. He had one catch in one of the Dolphin games. That's all I remember.
basically.
But listen, Bill, you'll never be topped. We'll talk more about Gerard Mayo on Sunday when we preview the Sunday games and recap the Saturday games.
Mike, I have a quick hot mic question for you because I just thought
Sure.
of this. Who is the biggest firing? Is it Tom Landry or is it Bill Belichick? Jimmy Johnson takes over for Landry after 30 plus years.
Actually, I
Mayo
think you could-
takes over. For
I think you could
Belichick.
throw Jimmy into this conversation too.
You could, but seriously,
Jerry
Landry
Jones.
and Belichick both had long careers. Same with Parcells. But
I'm
Parcells
good.
played with a couple different units.
I'm gonna say Belichick because the best, not the best, the dynasty that was the New England
Fair enough.
Patriots lasted for 20 years, and there'll never be a better coach than Bill Belichick, and there'll never be a quarterback like Tom Brady, and there'll never be a television show like the Brady Bunch where Tom Brady can't star.
Oh, I was about to say that went a little fun.
I'm sorry.
That was a little fun.
But I mean, the Landry firing was shocking in its
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
Tom Landry will always live in a Simpsons episode as well.
yes, and we'll bring up the Cowboys when we deal with that Sunday.
All right. We'll talk to you all Sunday morning. We'll recap the Saturday games, talk more about the coaching firings, and recap the Saturday games, preview the Sunday ones. But for Danny Boy Reginald, Mark Holdowski, Halpern, I'm Mike Rifkin. Thank you for listening to this special edition Sunday Sideline Report. We'll be back with you Sunday morning. Mark, you wanna shout it out again?
Well, you know where to watch us. www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com. But you know it's not getting away. Dan, you're not getting away. I want to know where we can be found on the platforms because there is no gridiron or Sunday sideline without a Dan letting us know where we can be found.
So, at S Insanity Real on X, stupid name.
It marks the spot.
And follow that and search Sports Sanity Network on Facebook as well. We're on there. Keep in touch with the network, and we'll post when we're live. We'll post when there's shows out. All that stuff. Please follow the network. And
Thank you all to Rudy Campos for believing in us to come back, sweep the league. We're looking forward to meeting with you in the new. That's not sweep the leg. Stop with Ralph Macchio. He doesn't like you anymore.
He doesn't. He's an Islander fan, jerk.
Definite big shout out to Joe Knapp and Anthony Laparo from Hattrick Breaks and Top Notch Sports Club, my number one coach signer, Top Notch. For all of us here at the Sports Insanity Network, enjoy tomorrow and be sure to tune in Sunday morning because you're either going to see a wobbly Mike Rifkin because he's going to be too drunk from the night before, or a Mike Rifkin who's pleasantly surprised. So it's worth tuning into.
I might show up as Frank the Tank from Old School either way. Night, everybody.